Welcome to Universal God Message of Peace. And I am the Weissman, and this is Lali Tunser. And we have a weekly meeting every week to talk about things that matter. And so today we're going to be talking about finding spirituality in the whirlwind. How do we find spirituality when we are busy, busy, busy people? So I'm going to start out with a story. I always try to start out with a story. And this is a very famous story about a very famous rabbi named Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And he got himself in some trouble with the Romans. He said something the Romans didn't like, and he had to go into hiding. And he and his son, Elazar, went into hiding in a cave. And they stayed in that cave for 12 years. And the cave had a little stream running through it, and it had a carob tree, and they lived on water and carob for 12 years. And they studied Torah for 12 years. And actually, not just Torah, but the mystical Torah, the secrets of the Kabbalah. And they spent all day. They say they say that they buried themselves up to their necks in the sand, right? For the entire week, right? So in order to save their clothing for Shabbat, right? And they would just talk and they would study Torah. So they did this for 12 years. And at the end of 12 years, a voice came down from heaven and said, Shimon Bar Yochai, it is time for you to leave the cave. So he goes and he goes out to the mouth of the cave, and there he sees a guy plowing his field. And he looks at this guy and he thinks, I don't understand. Says there's a God in the world. There's spiritual life. How could somebody waste their time with something stupid like plowing a field? How could a person do that? What a waste of time. And suddenly beams came from his eyes. Hope you like that. That's
Was
like
reading.
beams. Thank you. I was very impressed with that. The beams came from his eyes and burnt the guy to a crisp. And a voice came from heaven. Shimon Bar Yochai, go back into the cave. And so he spent another year back in the cave. And he came out at the end of 13 years. He came to the mouth of the cave again. And this time he saw a man plowing his field. And it was Friday afternoon. And the man jumped off of his plow and he went and he grabbed two branches of myrtle. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai stopped him and said, what are you doing? He says, it's Shabbat. He says, and why are you carrying the myrtle? He says, I'm carrying one of the myrtles. This is for Shamor. This is for keeping the Shabbat, keeping the Sabbath. And this is for Zachor, to remember the Sabbath. Right? And I have them and I take them to my home to give a beautiful smell to my home on Shabbat. And at that moment, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had a realization. And that is that spiritual life and physical life are not opposites. That a person can have a rich material life, that you can plow your field, that you can do your work, that you can make your paycheck, that you can do all of those things, but you can also have a spiritual life. And for many of us, of course, and for many of us, most of us, that's our reality, right? Our reality is most of us are not monks, we're not nuns, and it's not even recommended that we be monks and nuns. The recommendation is that we have to be people of the world, people who work, people who have children, and who function every day. But somehow or another, we also have to find God within those. We have to find God within those things. So today, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how to find God within the whirlwind of being a normal human being. And I really wanted to talk to Lale Tunser about this because she is the busiest woman I know. Okay? She's the busiest woman I know. Okay? She's very, very busy. Um, she's a doctor, she's a mom, right? she's involved in this project, okay? And she's involved in all sorts of projects. So I'm actually gonna ask you, okay, how do you find how do you find your peace in all of this?
Wow. Okay, so I think it's I think as long as we're trying to remember our creator in what we're doing, then you can be at peace whatever you're doing. So that's it. That's all I think that's the key really, just to try to remember God and try to remember, why am I doing this? So whatever you're doing, let's remember, let's think, why am I doing this? What is the intention behind it? So if the intention is to get something for yourself, then that can be stressful. If the intention is to do something for someone else, or to please God, then it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're the busiest person in the world. I mean, I'm not saying that that's, I do get stressed out sometimes. I'm not saying that,
Everybody does.
I'm always feeling like, I do work hard, and Baruch Hashem, and I'm really grateful that, I have the ability to work hard. I'm really grateful that I have, the health to be able to do so. I'm really grateful for the ability. But at the end of the day, I do get, pretty shattered sometimes. And then I look forward to just having a bit of rest and downtime, and like, I guess that's the reason for Shabbat as well, isn't it? Is to have, one day of rest a week where you sort of cannot run around like a, I call myself a donkey because, I sort of, I run around doing things. But yeah, it is nice to have a bit of downtime. And sometimes it's really, really hard when you're really mindful about what you're doing. If it's a very physical activity, or you're at work and you have to concentrate and you're not aware that you're thinking about God, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Your intention is there, why you're at work. It might be a good reason, but you can, we forget, mankind's nature is that they forget directly. You can't always be aware, while you can, but maybe not in a palpable way, of your creator while you're involved in the actual work. And I would say that the answer to that is, what I do is I make time for my contact prayers, where, in the morning I get up to pray, to meditate. In the afternoon, I make time, however busy I am. And sometimes it literally is non-stop. I don't get a lunch break sometimes, it's fine. But I do make time to pray. So I've got a little thing that I put on my door to say, please don't disturb praying in process or progress. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's just literally just a few minutes in the afternoon while I'm at work. I'll make time to pray. When I say pray, I mean, to remember God in a palpable way,
Mm-hmm.
and my contact prayers, and meditate and focus and remember, why I'm here, and to regain that strength from my creator. And then the same in the evening and the nighttime, obviously. So that is very important for me. It's like breathing for me. And that really, really helps. And obviously there's other things, like everybody has different ways of relaxing, regaining their strength. Some people might do it by listening to a bit of music, that's relaxing music. Some people might do it by going for a walk, and I do that as well. Like, if I can, I take my dog for a walk. She needs a walk, so I take her for a walk, and it's actually really nice for me as well. Going out into nature. So things like that. Just, I encourage people at work, my workplace as well. They've been doing this now, is because they work really hard there. And I say to them, it's so important that you make a bit of time for yourself at lunchtime, because otherwise we flag out by the end in the afternoon. You have to have a break. So we're trying to do this walking thing where people get together and they go for a little stroll outside, get some fresh air. Um, so just go into nature. Um, what else? I listen to Quran whenever I can. So even if I'm in the house and I'm busy with the kids and I'm cooking, cleaning, whatever, not cleaning, but obviously if I'm cooking, I've got the Quran playing in the background. And in the night when I'm in bed as well. So like, whenever I can on the way to work and on the way back, and that really, really helps. Um, and when I can as well, studying, reading scripture, the Psalms of David are beautiful. So I'm just trying to remember our Creator as much as possible and hold
I,
on to them. That's what really helps me. But other people have different ways of doing it. I asked my children today over coffee, how do you guys do it? And they said, so one of them said that she likes to eat. That makes her feel better when she's stressed, eating something nice. And another one said she likes to watch a little bit of Netflix to just detach a little bit. And
mhm,
that's fine, whatever helps people.
mhm.
Because if you're angry and stressed, and you don't want to express that anger, it might be a good idea to just seclude yourself for a while, do whatever it is that, that helps you to just unwind, to de-stress, and then come back into the busy world.
I think it's interesting. You mentioned Shabbat. I think a lot of what you describe is what I would call like sabbatical values, Shabbat values. I mean, there's pausing is really important. I
Mhm.
think that Shabbat is a very long pause. I mean, it's a whole day pause in some respects. Um, but those small pauses, the pause that we make for prayer, right? The pause that we make, to get a little bit of nature, to get a little bit of fresh air in our lungs, the pause that we take to even to watch Netflix, the pause that we take to eat the Oreo cookie, all of those things. Because what it does is it breaks the cycle. And actually, it's interesting. All this, um, in recent years, they've done all these studies of mindfulness and so on. And what they found is that in the creation of neural pathways and things like that, it's possible just by pausing, right? Simply pausing, simply stopping,
Mhm.
right? You can actually really change behavior and change mindsets, right? That's just stopping, just
Stop it, but
simply,
keep breathing, just concentrating on your breathing.
right? Just concentrating on your breathing, just something as simple as that.
Mhm.
Something as simple as that is enough of a pause to completely change what might be that feeling of overwhelm that I think many people, I think somebody once called it the tyranny of time. You know, they feel like you're really oppressed by time.
Oh
And
yeah.
now I'm not oppressed by time. Now I live the life of leisure. I live the life of the retired person. So I get to relax. So I make any stress, it's all my own fault. I make it all by myself. But when I was working, obviously I was a teacher and so on, and there was a lot of stress with that. And I was constantly trying to like figure out how to kind of maintain some kind of spiritual equanimity in the midst of all this,
I
in the
think
midst of
you
all that
said,
stress.
yeah, mindfulness is the big thing. I think a lot of us, when we're doing something, we're not really 100% there sometimes. But if we can be 100% there, it makes it a lot easier. But we're often living in the past or living in the future. We're either depressed about the past because we can't change it, or we're worried about what's going to happen in the future, and then it takes you away from living in the now. And And again, we forget what is our purpose? Why am I here? What do I actually want? What do I understand as success? What does success mean to me? We forget. It's so important to meditate on it and to reflect on what we understand as success in our lives, because otherwise it's easy to get overwhelmed. Whereas if you've got your purpose in your mind and you're always aware of it, it's always before you.
Yeah.
You know why you're doing something, then it's like it keeps you going, it gives you hope, it gives you, you believe in it, you remember that you believe in it, and that gives you strength. Whereas if we don't believe in what we're doing, why we're doing it, then you lose the strength to do it. You get overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, well, it's hard. It's, when you have a mission, right? Like that's the best word I can think of for it. Right?
Definitely.
When you have a mission, right?
Mm,
You're focused on the mission. It's mission first,
mm.
right? But a lot of times when it comes to work and it comes to all the things we have to do, we kind of lose sense of the mission and it just becomes busy work. Like everything is busy work. Just keep doing
That's
and doing and
it.
doing without
Yeah.
any sense of like what is my mission here? What am I trying to accomplish? Like why am I here?
Exactly. And I've had that battle as well. So, like, you might have a mission in your mind or in your heart, but you feel like you're battling with something that's fighting against you to try and prevent you from doing it. And that's all the stuff like, going to work, paying the bills, doing others, or, if you don't enjoy your job, I do enjoy my job. So I'm very blessed because I love working and I love what I do. Um, but it doesn't mean I don't find it stressful, because it is a big responsibility. And I also have other areas of interest. And it is hard to juggle everything, especially, and there's so many of us who are working mums or working dads, and we juggle home life with our work life. And
Mm,
it's all about getting the right balance, being able to switch off from work to come home and become 100% mindful with your children, being able to switch off from whatever's happening at home or in your, and focus on your work if you've got a big responsibility so you don't make mistakes and things like that. It is a very difficult thing. And the only way I do it is I say, thank you, God. He helps me. I really just hold on to him, and just take each day as it comes, because you just don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So the two things I always say to myself when it gets tough is God never gives you more than you can handle.
mhm.
It tasks no soul beyond its capacity. And it's important to always remember this. And secondly, it will come to an end. So like it won't last forever. Good things don't last forever, but bad things in this world, pain, suffering, any struggle that we go through also ends if things get too tough. And oh, sorry, there is a thirdly. Thirdly, I try to be grateful for everything I've got. Things could always be worse. There are always people who are worse off in everything. Like I've got nothing to complain about at all. I'm really grateful for everything. And everybody's going through the same thing in different ways. So we're all in this together, you know. Nobody's struggles are more important or less important than anybody else's. We're all facing struggles in one form of another. And this is what our Creator has willed for us. So if it, um, as long as we remember him and he's with us, his presence is what gives us rest and peace in everything we do. So his
Yeah,
presence.
well, we're never alone,
We're
right?
never alone, and
We're
when we
never
believe
alone.
that he's with us in everything we're doing, even through the struggles, even through the hardships, he's with us and we can get through it. So one of my daughters today, she said, she's quite wise actually. She said, Mummy, I didn't realize. I said to them, I said, girls, do you get stressed out? Because they've got a great life. They're like, yes, we get stressed.
Oh,
So I
of
said to one of your
course.
daughters, I said, so what helps you when you're stressed? And she said, hope. And I was like, okay. And that's a really good one, isn't it? Hope. Because if you don't
Yeah.
have hope, then you do get overwhelmed and you give up. But we've got to just keep moving. Don't, whatever you do, don't stop. Just keep going. Get through the day, and tomorrow is a new day, and anything can happen.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
keep,
if you in spirituality, I think the only real failure is if you give up. If you don't give up, right? If you don't give, so the hope thing, I agree. If you don't give up, if don't, sooner or later, whatever the bad situation is going to resolve itself.
it will.
And you're not alone in this situation, and hopefully you're not alone humanly in the situation. I mean, I think most of us are, well, let's put it this way. We really should, it's important to have friends. It's important to have family. It's important to have people who accompany you on the journey so that so that
Yes.
you're also not alone. You're also not alone humanly, because we're not made to be alone, right? The One of the first things God says in the Torah, he says to Adam, he says, it's not good for a person to be alone. And it's not. I mean, you know, we need other people. We need friends. We need people, who we can speak our heart to, and when we're stressed, to be able to express ourselves, and to, you know, rather than, I think that I think I've spent so much time in my life repeating conversations in my head, trying to get them right. What I should have said. They said to me, I should have said, and I said this, and I should have said this, and I could have said this, and why didn't I say that, and why didn't I do this? And I think that what they meant was really this. I, so I can have the same conversation in my head 5,000 times, right? And each time I have it, I become more stressed. How much better to be able to turn to my creator and, to turn to my creator and just say, Ribbon Shalom, master of the world. Oh, I had this conversation today. This is what happened, and be done with it. Or
Yeah.
to turn to my friend and say, this is what happened. This is what happened to me today. This is the conversation, and be done with it, rather than spinning around in my head over and over and over again.
And some of us are more sensitive to things like this than others are. It's a great blessing, I think, to be sensitive, but it can be hard sometimes because especially if you pick up on, things, and or you worry about what you might have said, and if you might have upset somebody or whatever, and you're worrying about it and things like that, that can cause people a lot of stress. um to be honest, I don't think we can really get away from it in this world. I believe in the next world, and I believe that there is a time, in this physical world. I think we're supposed to work hard, and that can be stressful. But there will be a day where it's just continuous. It's like Shabbat the whole time.
Yeah.
God willing, and in this world, it's a bit of we can have a little bit of it in this world as well. It's important to get rest, and but the reason why we rest is so that we can keep working in this world, and holding on to that keeps us going, because actually the working part is actually part of serving God. So we can rejoice and find peace in remembering that while we're working, while we're you know out in our busy lives, and we're doing things, and we're trying to help other people, or we're trying to do something, as long as our intention is not for self profit, and it's not driven by our ego, then whatever you're doing, you're serving God. So even if it's a struggle, we can find peace in remembering that. It brings delight to God, a lot of delight, from my understanding. That's how it is. And making a difference, planting seeds of love, and acts of loving kindness. If you're out all day doing mental health work, and you're listening to people talking to you about all of their issues, you take on a lot of their negative energy, and it can really drain you out by the end of the day. But why are you doing it? They're feeling good at the end of the day, maybe after talking to you, but you're coming home feeling drained. You're taking on their burdens. Why are you doing it? As if you remember, why am I doing this? it's an act of sacrifice, and our whole world, our whole life can be an act of sacrifice. As long
Right.
as it is an act of sacrifice, and as long as it is, with that intention, then we've got nothing to feel bad about, like sad about, bad about. Like tomorrow's a new day. It will all be good. It will all be good, and it is all good. Um, but I think that's it. The way to transform ourselves so that we don't get overwhelmed is to just to meditate on what is success to us and transform our understanding of success. That's what I would
Yeah.
I
And I think what you said was really important that, it's easy to think of work as a distraction from your spiritual life, right? I think that that's the attitude that a lot of people have. So I have my spiritual life, right? Which means, my prayer, my meditation, my study and all that. And then I have my work life. But really, what are we in this world for, right? We're not just in the world to meditate. We're not just in the world to be, right? We're here to be also builders of the world, right? We're also here to be working, and the Torah says 6 days you will work and the seventh day you rest.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of people say, oh, okay, seventh day I rest, that's great. Well, no, but it says 6 days you work. That's also Avodat Hashem. That's also serving God. Those 6 days are also serving God, and that's your opportunity to create. That's your opportunity to create a space for
Mhm.
godliness in the world also. To make I had a classroom. My classroom was. I would set the intention every morning before I started class. I'd say my classroom is a dira tachtona bilam hazeh. My classroom is a dwelling place for God in this world below. Okay, that's what my classroom is, and and that's my goal, right? And that's my goal in
So,
my teaching, in the way that I treat my students, in the way I help my students treat each other. Now, sometimes, oh my goodness, sometimes I felt better about the results. Sometimes I didn't feel so good about the results, but still, the intention was that my work is part of my spiritual life. And think about business and people who are in business, the opportunity to display in integrity and
mhm.
generosity and all of those things. There's so many virtues that you can express in the workplace, no matter where you work, whether you're in a helping profession or when you're in any kind of profession, no matter what it is that you're doing. There's so many opportunities that you have. Um, there's so many opportunities you have to behave, impeccably and beautifully towards other people. And so the service of God is not, something, it's not supposed to be like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the cave, right? We're not supposed to be living in the cave. We're supposed to be living in the world and having those opportunities. Now, sometimes we have to cocoon a little bit, take that walk and breathe the fresh air, you know, and watch the Netflix, eat the Oreo cookies. I love that one. In my case, I'm gonna share my secret. Um, when I get really stressed, I like to listen to reggae music and to
Yes,
dance.
dance.
Okay.
Yes, one of my daughters said actually one of their answers was, "Oh, mummy, dancing is a good way of."
Yes. I just
Yeah.
I play music, anything that's got a downbeat, and I just got downbeat, let's dance. And and it makes me feel better. And that's also because I have to say, happiness is really important.
Mhm.
It's important to be happy. Happiness in the service of God. King David said it. Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. Serve God in happiness, right? We do everything better when we're happy, right? Anything better when we cook. Okay, if you could taste the difference in food that was cooked by somebody who's happy tastes better than food that was cooked by somebody who was miserable when they cooked it. I can promise you that. Um, and the same things with everything that we do. So sometimes we have to make ourselves happy. And if dancing makes you happy, sometimes that's the thing you have to do, you know?
Okay, exactly, exactly. It's important. It's interesting to think about, do we work in order to rest, or do we rest in order to work? The way we choose to see life is so important, the way we choose to see it. You know, if we're, and also, what do we define as work? What do we
Mhm.
feel is tiring? Because surely you only need to rest if you feel tired.
Right.
What makes you tired? So let's think, what makes us tired? What makes us feel physically tired? What makes us feel emotionally drained, mentally drained? All of those things that make us feel drained, I guess that's, you could say, is work, because you're working,
Mhm.
it's draining you out. But if you're doing something for completely, I think with, I don't know, I just think there's the there's the body and there's the soul. And when we're working for our body, then maybe we get tired. If we're working for the soul, like if we're working and we're connected completely, purely, we won't really get tired. I think, you just, you if you connect yourself to the energy source, which is our creator, at all times, then you're constantly connected, so you don't run out of energy. In that
I'll
case,
take your word for that because I'm not
well,
there
I'm
yet.
not saying I'm there yet. I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I'm just thinking, if we this is what my aim is, this is what I'm
Mhm.
trying to do, this is how, people do say to me, Lali, how do you get the energy to do, running around? And there's so much you can do if you're focusing on it. But my advice is, if you, how I do it is, I try to just remember God as much as possible, and remember the purpose that I'm doing it for, because it's for him, and it's for, the people that I love. And that's what gives me the energy. It comes from that place. And Baruch Hashem, and he can take it away, even if I'm not saying that people who don't have the energy are not connected, because you can still be connected but not have the physical energy. And I guess that's what old age does, and we get old and our bodies grow older, and that's fine. I'm not saying I'm not undermining it, mining anybody's, like, saying that anybody who doesn't have the energy is not connected. That's not what I'm saying. I think it's more mental tiredness I'm talking about. The body does grow old, and it, gets, we get health problems and struggles and things. But I think
And
I'm
then you get a whole different set of stressors.
Yeah, exactly. There's all sorts of challenges. And but in terms of the mental energy, because that's a big part that plays, isn't it? So many of my depressed patients present with tiredness, the symptom of
Mhm.
tiredness. Their body might be completely fine, but they are very tired. And the reason why they're very tired is because they're lacking motivation, they're lacking the will to keep going, they feel depressed, they're feeling anxious, and it presents as tiredness, and that has an impact on your physical well-being, because the adrenaline and everything, and or lack of energy. um so I'm talking about the
Mhm.
mental state, really. The way to keep that energy level up from that perspective, I think, is just to try and remember, using our mind, to remember our creator as much as possible,
Mhm.
and ask him for energy
And
and
there,
all the good things, and he does give it to us. And if we're positive, positivity, like you said, happiness, if you're happy, then everything is a lot easier. You're going to be less sluggish, you're going to be more enthusiastic, you're going to find that energy to keep going. And
and finding things which are uplifting. You mentioned, listening to Quran, listening to spiritual music, for example, you know, listening even to classical music. Some people get really uplifted by classical music, people get uplifted by all sorts of things. I mean, finding things, or visual arts, people who, who art just, inspires them. But finding things that uh
help you connect to your creator. And
right.
it can be through creative things like art, poetry, music. It can be through nature. It can be through, you know, talking to somebody, as anything that helps you connect to your creator, that as a, you know, is good. And prayer, meditation, self-reflection, all of these things, studying scripture, fasting, um, you know, anything really. And everybody might have a different way of doing it. Um, yeah,
Well,
listening
I think,
is
yeah, I
wonderful.
mean, people are different. I mean, that's, it's Rabbi Nachman once said very nicely. He said, um, imagine you had a medicine cabinet, right? And it was full of all sorts of medicines, and you were feeling sick. So what would happen if you said, "Oh, well, I'm feeling sick. I'll just take all of these medicines, right? And one of them will make me feel better," right? Well, you would probably die. That's probably what would happen, unfortunately, you know, right? Because you need the right medicine for the right, right medicine for the right thing. And each of us, each of us has different stressors and therefore, has different ways of dealing with them. But I think the main thing is exactly what your daughter said, and that's hope. That you should know that God is present wherever you are. Even
Mhm.
if you're in the middle of the biggest storm, right? There you are, the biggest storm. And life is whirling around you, and the bills have to get paid, and the kids have to get to school, and you have to go to work, and everything, and your head is spinning, your head is spinning, you know. Set your intention, do something to uplift yourself, and you'll find that God is present in all of those things. And he's there with you. He's there with you when you go take the kids to school. He's there with you when you go to work. He's there with you when you pay the bills. And that presence, that's hope.
Mhm.
And we should never despair of that. We should
No,
never despair of that. It's
as we're
always
breathing, as
always
long
there.
as we're breathing, as long as we're breathing,
As
so
long as we're breathing. And
so keep
after we
breathing.
breathe, who knows? Even better.
Yeah.
Even better. Even better.
Yes, yes. We can't run, we can't escape our creator. So like even if you try, you can't. So you know, he's with you, with us. He's with us
And the
everywhere we
most important thing is like and subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, that's very
please
important.
do. Please do.
Okay, I should be
Find
pointing down, I think. Like and subscribe down there. Okay, and we will be back next week, and we'll have more interesting things to talk about. And thank you so much. Peace and blessings to everybody.
Thank you. Shalom. Salam alaikum. Bye bye. Oh. It's still,
Hello.
no, it's still recording though. Oh, just one moment. Oh, there we go.